So life in Hawaii is pretty great, but if you've lived here long enough, you're gonna encounter the local bugs. You know, those little critters that are notorious for coming inside the house and making all kinds of commotion. And so I wanna talk about the 3 worst bugs that us locals gotta deal with. The kind where it's so serious, it's time to bust out the rubber slipper, you know what I mean? And just for fun, at the end, I'll share the one bug that I just cannot stand. I gotta call my wife to deal with it because, yeah, I no can handle. First on this list is mosquitoes. I don't know about you, but I cannot stand mosquitoes, especially after a rain. I mean, give it 1 or 2 days and the buggers be flying everywhere. And I remember growing up, after a rain, my dad would walk around the house and kick over everything that could collect water. Any leaves, any small containers, because if there was any standing water, Garen's ball bearings in a couple of days gonna have plenty of mosquitoes. And you try to catch one of those mosquitoes at nighttime when you're tired. After work, it's dark, you cannot see nothing, and then you just hear it. And then you just feel it, and then you start to get a little bit itchy, and then soon you get the phantom itches where you think you got a bite, but you're not really sure anymore. And then you gotta just try to fall asleep knowing that there's a mosquito somewhere in the room. Now, to combat the mosquitoes here, there's really not much you can do. Sometimes you only know that you got a mosquito is because the next morning somebody got mosquito bite on their legs or on their arms, or even worse, their face. I mean, as a little kid, the only thing you could do was scratch or maybe put some spit on top and just hope that it feels better. Fortunately, we've been to Japan a few times, and in Japan, they actually have these like cool little rollers that you just roll on top of the mosquito bite, and it actually does feel better. Number 2 is cockroaches. Now, cockroaches are one of the worst bugs that you gotta deal with here in Hawaii, because you just cannot get rid of them. I mean, to their credit, they're mostly harmless. They're just looking for food in all the wrong places. In the kitchen drawers, by the utensils, in the Tupperware, in the bathroom sometimes. I mean, they're just looking to eat. And then when you do spot them, if you don't act fast, they just run away. And I think what bothers me the most about these roaches is every time I see one in the house, I kind of just feel like my space is being violated. Like, brother, what you doing in my house? Get out. Meanwhile, there's probably dozens and dozens that I don't see. And sure, the roach traps do work, but they only work for a time, because from what I've experienced in the past, eventually they come back and then you gotta put new traps out. But if you talk to anybody in Hawaii about roaches, they will of course talk about the famous B-52 bombers. The big roaches that seem to attack people and fly around and get everybody all worked up. But if you really think about it, it's sort of an irrational fear. I mean, the roaches don't bite. At the worst, they're gonna just fly at you and scare you. But I think there's just a part of us that just gets so scared and freaked out that they just cause more stress than they're really worth. But when it's B-52 bomber time, that's when the rubber slipper comes out. No mercy, because guaranteed this thing not gonna miss. And sometimes if it's real serious, you gotta go double slippers with both hands and just smack them. But the thing that I've noticed with roaches here is actually I found a greater appreciation for the other critters that might be in our house. For example, geckos or spiders. Whenever I see them around, instead of getting scared or wanting to kick them out, I actually encourage them. I try to make it as easy as possible for them, because I know that they're not there just on vacation. They're there because they're catching the bugs. I mean, you can call it biological pest control, but there was just one time I saw this gecko in our condo. It was under the toaster and I was like, whoa, what is that doing here? And instead of trying to catch it and kick it out or anything like that, I was thinking to myself, it's gotta be eating something. And it's not eating our food. It's eating all the bugs that we don't want to be eating our food. And so again, it's actually given me a greater appreciation for the other bugs and predators that are eating all these roaches, because without them, it would be pretty bad. My leg's itchy, I'll put on my mosquito bite. And the number 1 bug we have here in Hawaii, the most notorious bug we have, is the centipede. You talk to any local about the worst bugs, and centipede is gonna be number 1, because I'm pretty sure that most locals have had at least one memorable encounter with a centipede. And while mosquitoes and roaches are relatively harmless, The centipedes are definitely not harmless because their bite, ooh, brother, that one's actually gonna sting a little. And whenever you hear locals talk about centipedes, you'll always hear the same type of story. Oh, this one time I saw this centipede. The bugger was this big and it came out of fill in the blank. And it's usually some random spot that seems very unusual and obscure. And so through all of these stories, it's no wonder that the centipede has built the reputation that it has here. And I remember growing up, if anybody ever spotted a centipede, it was serious. I mean, we turned off the TV. That's how serious it was in my family because everybody had to focus. And so once we located the centipede, my dad would get one of those glass mayonnaise jars and he would trap it. Now, sometimes it would be the skinny ones, but most often it was those really thick ones. You know, the kind that you see on the sidewalk, and even though the thing is dead, you still not gonna walk by it. And the thing about centipedes is you cannot just assume the things are dead because they got so much armor. So you cannot just take the slipper and smash them. And so what we end up doing is we either throw out the entire jar or most likely snip, snip, you gotta take the scissors to them. You know, I'm thinking about it, it's really too bad that centipedes have such a bad rap in Hawaii because, well, they're eating a lot of bugs that we don't like. But unfortunately, they have a really bad reputation here and they definitely have a bite that, ooh, man, that one's gonna hurt all night. And lastly, let me just share the bug that I cannot stand the most. I can handle mosquitoes, although they irritate me. I can handle roaches, even the B-52 bombers. Centipedes, initially I'll be a little worried, but I can handle. I've seen enough centipedes. But the worst of the worst bugs for me has gotta be moths. I don't know what it is. I just cannot stand moths. There's a fear of moths called motophobia, and perhaps I have that. But the thing is, I'm not afraid of moths in so much as I just get distressed or irritated by them. And distress is probably the best word because it's not like I'm afraid, like I run away from a moth if I see it. But when I do see one, it just bothers me so much. It just irritates me so much, and I'm not sure why. It may be from my time in Colorado where we had like this moth season where there are just almost endless moths coming into my place every single night, and I just couldn't stand it. But every time I see a moth in our place now, I call my wife immediately, and fortunately she is great at killing moths. You know, the most interesting thing about this discussion on the worst bugs in Hawaii, you put mosquitoes, you put roaches, you put centipedes on that list. But most locals are not going to talk about what could potentially have an even worse effect on our way of life here. And we have things like the coconut rhinoceros beetle, little fire ants, and the coffee berry borer, invasive species that threaten our local economy and even culture in a way. And so while most of us are busy dealing with the domestic pests that we might see in our homes and that we encounter the most, in fact, the ones that are really the worst, potentially the worst, but really they're the worst ones, are the ones that we don't see or the ones that we don't seem to talk about. I mean, yeah, I'm still gonna smash that mosquito if I see it, but I think it's important to remember and to put into perspective that the real big bugs, the ones that are gonna have an impact on most of our lives at some point, even though we may never encounter them, I think those are the ones that we should be paying attention to. So let me know what you think are the worst bugs in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and aloha. Oh, and by the way, does anybody else try to grasp the mosquitoes when they try to get them? Sometimes you can catch them in your palm or even between your fingers, or that's just me. Okay, I guess it's just me.